And with that, we're going to move on. We've now got question 6, and question 6 states, true cost or return of borrowing and lending is best measured by 1, the 3-month US Treasury bill rate, 2, the inflation rate, 3, the nominal interest rate, or 4, the real interest rate. And our junior tutor has written that the answer is 4, the real interest rate, and that is correct. And what they've written is that the amount of lending and borrowing that takes place in the economy is a derivative of its cost, which itself is determined by the real interest rate. According to the Fischer equation, the real interest rate is the difference between the nominal interest rate and the inflation rate. The real interest rate is the nominal rate once it is adjusted for the change in prices. The real interest rate is the cost of borrowing, as the higher the interest rate, the higher is the amount a borrower would be liable to pay in interest in addition to the principal. When the real interest rate is high, people borrow less and the level of investment is low, and the opposite is observed when the real interest rate is low. So what they mention here is Fischer equation. And just to be a little more clear on what they had written, the Fischer equation does roughly come out to the real interest rate equaling the nominal interest rate minus inflation, which I'll show you here in a second. What the actual Fischer equation says, I have this written here, is that 1 plus I is going to be equal to 1 plus R. So let me draw that there. 1 plus R multiplied by 1 plus pi subscript E. And what we have here is that I is equal to the nominal interest rate R is equal to the real interest rate and pi E is going to be expected inflation rate. Now you're probably thinking that on the last slide I said that pi typically denotes profits. That's true. Economists do this awesome thing where they like to use pi for everything. Expected inflation rate. And they're correct in that if you expand that all out, you get that R is approximately equal to the nominal interest rate minus the expected inflation. But the reason I did all this is that you should note that these squiggly means that it's approximately equal to, and sometimes professors will deduct marks if you were to list the Fischer equation like this as opposed to like this. So it is important you know the real thing for exact purposes, but it's easier to think of certainly that the real interest rate is approximately equal to the nominal interest rate minus expected inflation. So I'm going to say great answer. That's correct. And we can move on.